The Empty Tomb, The Empty Self-Resurrection, Sunyata, and The Shape of Enlightenment by the Backyard Buddhist. Why do you seek the living among the dead? He is not here, but is risen. Luke 24, verse 5. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Heart Sutra, Standing Before Two Emptinesses. There are two images that have followed me through the years. The first is the empty tomb, stone rolled away, linen cloths folded, absence where a body should be. The second is the empty self. Sit long enough and what you thought was you begins to loosen, then thin, then vanish altogether, leaving something that cannot quite be called anything at all. For most of my life, I never thought to connect these two. As a priest, I preached the empty tomb as victory. As a Zen practitioner, I encountered emptiness as insight. Now, I'm no longer sure those are separate experiences. The empty tomb, not absence, but disclosure. In the Orthodox tradition, the empty tomb is not presented as a void to be feared, but as a revelation. It is not nothing. It is the wrong place to look. The angelic rebuke. The gospel question is almost confrontational. Why do you seek the living among the dead? This is not just about Jesus. It is about our entire orientation to reality. We look for life in what decays. We look for permanence in what cannot hold it. The tomb is empty because life cannot be contained there. Maximos and the transformation of being. For Maximos the Confessor, Christ's resurrection is not simply a return from death. It is the transfiguration of existence itself. Death is no longer what it was. It becomes, paradoxically, a passage, not into non-being, but into a deeper participation in reality. The empty tomb is not a negation. It is a disclosure that life was never where we thought it was. The tomb as epistemological shock. The disciples come expecting a corpse. Instead, they encounter absence. This absence destabilizes everything, their expectations, their theology, their understanding of life and death. In that sense, the empty tomb functions almost like a koan. It doesn't explain, it undoes. It enda, shunyata, the emptying of the self. In Zen, we encounter a different, but strangely resonant emptiness. Not a tomb, but a self. Nagarjuna and the collapse of inherent identity. Nagarjuna dismantles the idea that anything possesses inherent, independent existence. This includes the body, the mind, the I we cling to. There is nothing whatever that is not dependently arisen, which means there is nothing that stands alone long enough to be truly grasped, what emptiness is not. It's critical to say this clearly. Emptiness is not nihilism. It is not the claim that nothing exists. It is the claim that nothing exists independently, Dogen and the disappearance of the self. Eihei Dogen expresses this with remarkable clarity. To study the self is to forget the self. And when the self is forgotten, you are actualized by the 10,000 things. This is not annihilation, it is decentering. The empty self is not a loss, it is the end of the illusion that there was something fixed to lose. The tomb and the self, parallel emptinesses. Here is where things begin to converge in a way that would have once made me uncomfortable. Both confront expectation. The tomb should contain a body. The self should contain a stable identity. Both fail to deliver. Both reveal misperception. We assume death is final. The self is solid. Both traditions say, look again. Both destabilize and liberate. The empty tomb doesn't reassure immediately. It confuses. The empty self doesn't comfort immediately. It disorients. But both open into something deeper. Resurrection. Awakening. Both the empty tomb and the empty self dismantle the frameworks that make death seem absolute. Patristic kenosis and Buddhist emptiness, a deeper theological bridge emerges in the concept of kenosis, self-emptying, Christ's self-emptying. In Philippians 2, we are told, Christ emptied himself. This is not a loss of divinity, it is a mode of divine expression. God reveals himself not through domination, but through self-emptying love. Is kenosis a kind of emptiness? Not in the Madhyamaka sense, but there is a resonance. Kenosis, self-emptying for the sake of love. Shunyata, absence of inherent self. Both undermine the idea of a self-sufficient, isolated entity. Critical difference. We should be precise. Kenosis preserves personhood and relationality. Shunyata dissolves inherent identity. And yet both break the illusion of self-enclosure, the empty tomb as koan. Let me say something that would have startled my former self. The empty tomb behaves like a Zen koan. It resists explanation. The resurrection narratives are strangely non-systematic. They don't present a clear metaphysical model. Instead, Christ appears and disappears. He is recognized and not recognized. He eats and yet passes through doors. It forces a shift in perception. Like a koan, the empty tomb doesn't give you something to believe. It gives you something that breaks your current way of seeing. Where is the body? This question has no satisfying answer, and that's the point. The empty tomb is not a solution to a problem, it is the collapse of the problem itself. Death revisited, destroyed, or deconstructed. We now arrive at a crucial divergence. Christianity, death is defeated. Death is real. Death is an enemy. Christ conquers it, Madhyamaka. Death is empty. Death is dependently arisen. Death lacks inherent reality. There is no fixed entity to die. Two strategies, one effect. Christianity removes death's power by overcoming it. Buddhism removes death's power by undermining its foundation. Both result in freedom from fear, hope in the face of emptiness. This is where the conversation becomes deeply human. Does emptiness leave room for hope? At first glance, no. If there is no enduring self, what exactly is being saved? And yet, compassion remains. In Mahayana Buddhism, the bodhisattva does not withdraw into emptiness. He or she returns again and again for the sake of others. Hope takes the form of commitment, not guarantee. Christian hope, love does not abandon. In Christianity, hope is grounded in relationship. God does not abandon creation. Love does not end in the grave. A shared intuition. Despite their differences, both traditions affirm this is not a closed system. Something, call it love, call it awakening, remains possible. Hope is not the denial of emptiness. It is what remains when emptiness is no longer feared. My life between tomb and cushion, I still carry both images. The empty tomb, it still speaks to me, not as proof, but as invitation. The empty self, it still confronts me, not as doctrine, but as experience. What I've come to trust, I don't try to resolve them anymore. Instead, I let them work on me. And what they seem to be doing is this: loosening my grip on certainty, softening my fear of death, expanding my sense of what it means to live. Final reflection: nothing. There and everything given. If you had asked me years ago what the empty tomb meant, I would have said, Christ is risen. If you ask me now what emptiness means, I might say, there is no fixed self. But if I sit with both long enough, something quieter emerges. Nothing to cling to, nothing ultimately lost, nothing separate from what is. He is not here. The angel at the tomb. Not this, not that. Apophatic theology. And somehow, mysteriously, that absence is not despair. It feels like release, openness, a kind of hope that doesn't need to argue for itself.